Hello, welcome back to the Majestic Devlog. So at this point, the game has been in development for over a year. That's kind of pretty crazy to think about. I've been working on this game for 12 months now. That's substantial. It took me 10 total months to create the companion, so I have already surpassed the complete development time of my first game. It's a pretty big milestone. There's quite a ways to go, but the progress has been pretty good so far. I've mainly been focused on this one level. You can see it's covered in snow in some of these images and ripped apart in some other images. And one of my primary goals has been to really show a diverse level with it changing throughout and the player being able to control the changes based on what story events they've witnessed recently. It is fairly dynamic. I think that's a unique aspect of this game, something you don't really get with many other games. It's something that's enabled by using the latest Unreal Engine 5. So I'm really trying to push the boundaries here and do some things that are unique visually and allow for some more immersion into the game. The challenging part is trying to create a nice visual with all the various iterations the level can be. I've been adding some polish and refinements to the gameplay. Some of the abilities, for example, the dart ability that makes the character go faster, now checks that you're flying and that you're actually moving forward. If you're not meeting the criteria, a little warning comes up saying you must fly faster before you can use it. I did record this with the snow-covered level when I was experiencing a deep freeze here in my hometown. I felt that was very appropriate for the time. Over the past month, I've done a couple play tests, which have been very eye-opening, leading to a lot of action items needing attention. I was monitoring the performance in some areas. Here you can see I have some monitors on the left side. In this case, the gameplay is hovering in the mid-30s to 50, 60 frames per second. Overall, that's satisfactory for now. I've yet to really do much performance-related items. I do try to keep it in mind when developing. I don't want to have it tanked too much at the get-go, so seeing it at these levels is promising. Some of the big tasks over the month have been story related. I've been getting in a lot of voiceover from some of the actors. I am hugely impressed with the performances so far. Here's an intimate scene with characters Noah and Daisy. It's one of the longer ones in the game. The actors have done such a superb job so far. So with these cinematics, this really is the meat of the game. It's a story game. Everything I do is in service of the story, and I'm really trying to have that cinematic feel, a very immersive experience, and the level itself is designed to evoke an emotion for the story. And the companion was this way as well, and I'm using a lot of tricks from the companion and trying to enhance what I did in that game as well. There is more care being taken with the animations. There's just a lot more work involved with these cinematics. So in the companion, a cinematic, I might be able to knock one or more out in a single evening, and now I'm basically allotting at least a week to each one in this game. But I think the final result is certainly it certainly shows, and it's certainly worth it. Here I'm editing some of the voiceover. The actors typically give me a few takes of each line. I'm taking the best parts of each take and editing everything together. I time it all out in the audio editing software, make sure it's sounding fairly natural, and then I'll save it all out as individual files So this cinematic has 30 clips of dialogue. Then I'll take those clips of dialogue and put it through my voiceover system, which includes subtitles. I've tweaked how subtitles are displayed and generated, and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking so far. Here's other iterations of the level, some stormy scenes, daytime scenes, just a huge variation of what the level can look like. Here's the war-torn level. You got the giant plumes of volumetric smoke. The town is in ruins. The overall feel of the level is more desolate and just torn to shreds, and it's got the magenta hue over everything. I've been doing a lot of work on this visual, actually adding all the broken down buildings and charred boulders. It's starting to really come together nicely, I feel. Here's another story element with one of the characters and the wolf from the companion walking through this war-torn level. I am really loving how these boulders with the emissive property on them across the whole level, it almost looks like a city in the distance. I just love this visual with the sun and the charred boulders and the characters walking through this torn land. And then here, finally, toward the end of this devlog, here's some work on a couple new objectives. In the companion, there were these trees on these floating rock islands, and you would interact with them to harvest essence, which is the main resource for the game. And while playtesting the Majestic so far, I do feel there needs to be ways to inject the character with more essence, more resource. Otherwise, it feels like a bit of a grind. So going back to using something from my previous game, I wanted to bring back these floating elements, which I do feel lend nicely to having a bird character as well. Anything that adds verticality to the game, I think, is a huge plus. But I wanted to also take it to another level, and so the goal here is the player will find these seeds, these essence seeds, and collect them, and could have up to a certain number of them. And then the idea is they'll plant them somewhere in the level, and it'll grow these floating tree islands where essence can be harvested. So that's the overall concept right now, which could certainly change. I do feel it would be pretty cool if the player can have some effect on the world and plant enough seeds, you create a floating forest, perhaps. Just having these trees floating in the air and seeing them in the distance is another visual element, and it would be something the player could actually control. I think would be pretty nice. This is a huge work in process still. These visuals are nowhere near final. There's a lot of pieces to putting all this together. It's probably going to take me another couple months before I'm satisfied with how it's all working and looking. So over the past month, there's been quite a bit of progress, and I'm extremely excited with how far it's come. I'm amazed it's been a year of development already. I do think 2023 is going to be an exciting year with a lot of exciting things in the months ahead. Please stay tuned to this channel to keep up to date with everything going on. Please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.